Hello there, and welcome back to the Duke Chronicle Men's Basketball Beat Writer podcast. I'm alongside Scott Rich, and we're here to answer the three questions that are biggest for Duke basketball today. So Scott, you were in Columbus, Ohio for when the men's team, they got whooped by Ohio State.
Yes, they did.
What went wrong?
Well, the thing that a lot of people don't realize about that game is, at least in the first half, it was a lot more Ohio State playing out of their minds than Duke playing poorly. Ohio State shot 60% from the field in the first half, whereas Duke shot 17% from three. Those are just ridiculous statistics. But really, the reason that Duke lost that game was defense. And Duke just seemed completely lost against how to guard against 3 or 4 different scorers on the court at the same time. When Duke shut down Jared Sullinger, Aaron Kraft stepped up. When they keyed in on Kraft, it was their wing players or it was Sullinger in the post that were getting things done. So Duke really needs to work on a whole team defensive effort as opposed to just keying in that one guy.
I completely agree, and I think it also exposed some of the weaknesses in Duke's lineup. They really had no answer to William Buford in that first half. He scored 13 points, and for a real combo guard forward, he stands at 6'6". Who in the starting Duke backcourt can guard a body like that? And when Gabinajay and Murphy aren't getting true minutes in that first half, Gabinajay saw more action in the second half. How are they supposed to guard against a player like that? And that's why he really ran all over the Blue Devils.
Well, first of all, this is Gabinajay, not Gabinajay. His nickname's Silent G for a reason there. But, no, I completely agree, and I think that it's really important for Gabinajay and Murphy to get some time. Obviously, we don't know what's going on with Murphy, that he had a concussion in practice, that type of thing. But they're going to need to get into the game eventually in order to be that, small forward type guy to guard players. So obviously we talked about what went wrong, but we hit on a couple things, Gabinajay being one. There are some positives, albeit slight, you may be reaching to, grab from that Ohio State game. What were some of the things you noticed?
Well, the first thing that I noticed is it was Mason Plumlee's first true test against a premier big guy threat. And I think, regardless of what the final score said, he passed that first test. He bullied Sullinger in the post on both the offensive and defensive ends, and he saw early foul trouble. But I think if you're Coach Krzyzewski, you are pleased with how he showed himself against one of the best big guys in the nation.
Yeah, and to go off that too, obviously Austin Rivers was the only other offensive threat. And his, again, his numbers weren't great, but I think he actually took a step forward maturity-wise and intelligence-wise in that game. This was the first game for Austin Rivers that I saw him driving in and then making a pass out when he saw the defense was collapsing as opposed to putting up a bad shot. And again, the second half sort of skewed his numbers a little bit. He put up some bad shots towards the end. But I think that was a big step forward, and I think looking back, people are going to look back at this Ohio State game and see this is the first game that Austin Rivers really got how to play at the collegiate level.
I agree, and with those positives, how do they translate this to their game this Wednesday against Colorado State?
Well, this game really reminds me of the game back in 2010 against St. John's at home, when coming off of Duke's first ever loss in the ACC Big Ten Challenge against Wisconsin, game I was also covering. But in that game, Duke started out down 6 points against St. John's and ended up at the end of the first half being up 14. They really showed in that game that they were able to rebound from some early adversity and get back and play Duke basketball. And that's something that Duke's really going to have to do against Colorado State. It's obviously a team that's a little bit overmatched in this game. They're not a great basketball team. But Duke's going to have to come out and show that they can play with the intensity, the defensive effort, and the energy that they didn't play with against Ohio State.
I agree there, and there are also certain players that you want to see bounce back individually. Ryan Kelly, an obvious one, after being named the MVP of the Maui Invitational, he comes out and doesn't score against Ohio State. Andre Dawkins, a real non-factor in the game, and you really want to see those players who should have major roles on the Duke team start to make their presence felt.
Yeah, and I'll also be interested to see, obviously this game could be a blowout because Colorado State isn't that great of a basketball team, but I want to see if Gabinajay, if Quinn Cook, if Josh Harrison, if they start to get more consistent minutes, because they got a lot of garbage time against Ohio State, but they played very solid basketball, especially Gabinajay and Harrison. So it'll be interesting to see if Coach K makes an effort to get them more involved in the game.
I agree, and that's our 3 questions for the Blue Zones podcast. Check back later in the week for our coverage of the game against Colorado State.